And we are live. That took a while. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. A vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because people on Facebook don't like to be told, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Dumbass. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble pretty much everywhere. You can find me all over social media under that name, Shujin. I'll leave you to the rest of it. Let me introduce you to the shortened group. I'll explain in a couple of moments why. Top left of the bingo. You know, you'd think I'd actually put some alcohol in this? No, not so much. Top left of the bingo card tonight out there in Calgary. Good evening, Dallin.
I've got plenty of alcohol here for you.
Screw you. Down to the left, central of the U.S. in the Midwest. Good evening, Bridget.
Good evening.
South of me into Pittsburgh. Good morning, Joey.
Well, nothing's gone wrong in the last 8 minutes, so I suppose.
Well, it's not the 20th yet, so we're good. Speaking of which, just off to the right, just outside of what is probably going to become Madhouse USA. Oh, wait, already. Unrenewed Tech, good morning.
Good morning. And if you search for your name and spell it incorrectly, Google search will actually recommend the proper spelling of it. That's how notorious you have become.
Actually, it gets to be funny. Under my mother's real name, if you go looking for her, believe it or not, you come up with somebody who is incarcerated who is in the mafia. Not too very long ago, just late 20th century. So, okay, there's that. I am not going to say how closely removed I am from the mafia. I will, however, go ahead and say that, yes, my mom and dad kind of scammed an apartment from one of the notorious families in Brooklyn once upon a time. Completely rumored. It's her word against... it's my mom. What am I going to do?
Did you ever see the movie Analyze This with Robert De Niro?
I did not.
You need to watch it. And when they're talking about in the first part of the movie actually happened, one of my relatives was one of the ones that ran.
So the question
just go watch the movie. Just go watch the movie.
The one thing I got to ask there, Shujin, is if you were to approach and ask for a favor, would they grant it without any, what is the term, repercussions?
Or favors in return.
No, they would not
never owe a favor.
Me. They would never even recognize me. As in...
Probably a good thing. Yeah,
well,
okay.
Yeah. Once upon a time, the mafia was not what it is. And that's about as far as I'm going to talk on that one. So, yeah, Little Italy. Once upon... Never mind. You don't want to know. Maybe one of these days I will regale you with some of these stories. Maybe I'll convince my mom to talk about these again and record them for posterity, assuming everybody else is dead.
Watergate. Sorry.
Well, if I'm the last one on the introductory list, how about that 5-minute freestyle?
Okay, we'll get around to that in just a couple seconds.
Heretic right into the ditch.
Heretic Woman is not going to be joining us because Bridget, what's the medical technical term for it? Feeling like shit?
Feeling like shit.
Yeah, I thought that was the technical term for it. That is the technical term for it.
I have fun with doctors when they ask me how I feel. I give them detailed descriptions that even make them uncomfortable.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go to a munch sometime. That'll be fun. Some people get that. And so she's unwell, so our thoughts are out to her. Joseph is also feeling a little under the weather, and he basically
Well, he's French.
Well, he basically got in touch with me a couple of minutes ago and said, I'm not feeling really good. I might show up late. And I'm just like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Go sleep. Get well. It's all right. We'll fill in the details later.
If he starts having visions of Mr. Bean, step away from the light.
I don't think that his name is Carol Ann as a middle name.
No, Mr. Bean.
Yeah, I know. Actually, come to think of it, I'm thinking of my little one is going to get this joke, although she'll probably never watch this. Kind of a middle name is Alice, anyway. Some people get that. Some people get that reference. Anyway, let me go ahead and do you guys who are in the military are probably going to appreciate this, and the medical military especially. Bridget, I think you're going to appreciate this one. Your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. B-17 bomber. Some of you remember it. Some of you recollect it. The B-17 bomber has a long and illustrious career. The Flying Fortress 4-engine heavy bomber developed in the 30s. Retired only in 1968 when the Brazilian Air Force finally said, no, that's enough. Over 12,000 of them were built. In 1945, they cost approximately $240,000 at the time. Current days, it puts it about a little over $3 million a plane. Not bad, really, you think about it. Do you know who was involved with them that we know of today? You know some of the names. Gene Roddenberry, Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, Tom Landry, Norman Lear, and that's only a handful of names back from World War II. Loud mothers. This has got nothing to do with that. You know what B-17 is also referred to? Some people have gone ahead and called a particular combination of molecules B-17. Doesn't mean anything. It's really not a thing. It's not really recognized as a thing. Although, if you wanted to go looking up B-17, I kind of talked about this not too very long ago. Amygdalin. Sure, I don't know how to pronounce it. And you know why? Because I'm not a chemist and I'm not in the medical industry, so whatever. And I learned only that much because I found out that, it's poisonous, found in many plants. The seeds of apricots and bitter almonds and apples and peaches and plums. Since the 50s, 1950s, I should say. It's got a modified version. People have been saying that it's an alternate cancer treatment. They've been calling it B-17. Clinically ineffective. So, yeah. Why bring this up? Well, I mentioned that some people had forwarded off a thing that said B-17 is the reason why you got cancer. So, you need to eat these things in order to make sure that you don't get cancer or to treat it. All well and good. So, 1845 uses a cancer treatment in Russia. And the United States in the 20s. Too poisonous. So they said, that's enough of that. 1972, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. You guys might have heard of them somewhere along the way. Benno C. Schmidt Sr. convinced the hospital to test this shit. And the scientist who performed the test, Kanematsu Sugiura, you know what, close enough, I don't care, found that inhibited secondary tumors in mice did not destroy the primary tumors, repeated the experiment several times with the same results, and 3 other researchers were unable to confirm the results and couldn't replicate it. So, no. Why am I giving you all this information? Remember I was telling you that I kind of mentioned about this, talked about this last week, I made mention to it? I want to finish this off to you. Not you, but you, the person that followed up on these, who forwards off these things from maybe the avocado guy, saying that B-17 is the reason why you got cancer. Or maybe that's a change in your diet would prevent you from getting cancer, or what treats you. Let me put it to you in a very simple fashion, because I could talk about me and my family and my wife, but I don't need to. Are you really going to sit there and tell me that the 9-year-old child going through chemotherapy, who no longer has hair, who no longer has eyebrows or eyelashes or any hair whatsoever on her body, who has radiation burns on her chest because she has to come in 3 times a week for a gamma knife to go ahead and try to dissect and destroy these cancer cells, these tumors inside of her body when she did nothing wrong? You're going to try to go ahead and tell me that her fucking diet is the reason why she's dying at 9 years old? Do I really need to say anything more? Episode 147 on the docket, Your Honor. Be like Mindy. Mindy and Buttons. Buttons and Mindy from the Animaniacs back in the 90s. So much fun. Mindy would just come on and why? And why? Okay, Space Lady, I love you. Bye-bye. I loved that because that is the whole reason why we do what we do here. Why? And we've talked about that. Shut up. We've talked about this before, that, you know, why gets a bad rap because people get upset because you keep asking why, like a 4-year-old. Why? Warner Brothers did was it Warner Brothers? Yeah, Warner Brothers did a couple of shorts of like the House of Tomorrow, and one had the little television set where a kid stands over there and asks a whole bunch of questions, and finally the thing's just like, shut up, and sticks a plunger in the kid's face. Well, you know what? That's who we should be. We skeptics, we free thinkers, we who try to question. We need to keep asking why and not stop. And we're going to talk to you and explain why we need to do that. Preferably without my voice cracking like I'm going through puberty again. The frick, man. Like I said, I am not having nearly enough. I have coffee. I do not have any alcohol in it whatsoever. I don't even have any flavoring in it. And normally I shouldn't be having any coffee this late at night. But you know what? Screw it. I don't care. Because as you can probably tell from that 5-minute, I'm a little bit of a pissed off puppy.
Well, one of my favorites whys that was ever asked was my sister had asked, why is there a Warner sister named Dot? And I said, go look at the opening of the show. And it has Warner, BROS, period, brothers, and the Warner sister, Dot.
That's right. Because it used to be that BROS period was brothers. It used to be that NO period was number. And it used to be that JO period was Joseph. Yeah, you knew about that one though, Joey, didn't you? No idea. That's fine. I'm wondering if your mic is still working tonight.
20 years on, I will confess.
Yeah.
20 years on, that never occurred to me.
Really?
That is the second time. This is the second time in 2. Hold on. This is the second time in 2 weeks. You almost did a spit take. You should know better.
You're welcome. No, honestly, I honestly thought that, what is it, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, I thought that was reference to something else. Because I mean, a lot of Warner Brothers cartoons do tend to take bits from history and, you know, throw them completely out of context.
Oh yeah, like nice lady.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
God, that was great.
Yeah, and of course,
I'm a pianist. A pianist. Good night, everybody.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And actually, there was a great thing I saw on Facebook just today concerning Bugs Bunny. I know I'm completely taking the show off the rails, but considering we just went into,
It's Warner Brothers. It's Bugs Bunny. It's okay.
Okay, you know, okay, according to this thing, he was originally known as Happy Bunny.
Okay.
Back when he was first created. He eventually got the name Bugs. He was named after one of the animators who animated him. His nickname was Bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. Now, a lot of Bugs's catchphrases actually came from Clark Gable and Groucho Marx.
Groucho doesn't surprise me, considering
The
that
Groucho was self-evident with the carrot. You know.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. Actually, Clark Gable was the inspiration for how he lazily would eat a carrot.
No. I meant the whole using the carrot as cigar.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the other trademark or iconic things about Groucho Marx, you do realize, of course, this means war. A Groucho Marx quote, actually.
was that from? I'm trying to think. Was that from? God, I don't even remember.
Use Google.
No idea.
Yeah.
Now, a piece of trivia for you. Mel Blanc. You'll probably know this one, Shujin, just given, Jack Benny aficionado that you are.
Long story, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Mel was in a car accident. Was in a coma for about a week. To help bring him out of it, apparently, the doctors put a TV in his room and ran Bugs Bunny cartoons. And the doctor actually he would talk to Mel and say, "Hey, Bugs, how you feeling? It's time to get up."
What's up,
When
Doc?
Mel opened his eyes, his response, "What's up, Doc?" That's where it came from. Like, poof, mind freaking blown, man.
Yeah. For anybody that's maybe too young to have watched the Warner Brothers shorts on TV back in the day, YouTube them like crazy. The work that some of these guys did was absolute genius. You can see how amazing these guys were, reminding you that they were working with acetate, cellophane effectively, and painting every damn thing and churning out. I think they were churning out one every 9 months, or something along that line.
Yeah.
I mean, not each one took 9 months, back to back to back, simultaneously. 9 months, however long it was. And Mel Blanc, the voice of the man of 1,000 voices, did a lot of work before that and after.
Yeah.
The other nice thing is that they archived even their racist cartoons from back in the day, and they, put up a statement of, "Listen, this is no longer acceptable. We've moved beyond this, but we want them to be here so that people can see, for the sake of historical facts or history's sake,
Yep.
what it was like."
Yeah. Well, even look at their all the anti-war stuff that they had.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, actually the war stuff, I should say.
Yeah, the war stuff. Which was
Yosemite
promoted
Sam,
to buying bonds and hate the Germans. And
Yosemite Sam as a Nazi commander.
Mhm.
Yep.
Avoiding the draft. Both Bugs and Daffy had stuff for that.
Yep, and it wasn't just the Warner Brothers; it was Disney. They did it too with Donald Duck
Mickey Mouse.
working for the Germans at the time, in
Yeah.
one short at least. So
Yeah, so I mean, and actually that kind of ties in because a kid like me, back before I learned all of this stuff, now you got to think I'm single digits at this point. I'm looking at this going, well, why this? Why that? And now looking back on it, of course, everything falling into context, like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Why they did it. It was propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And given the fact that originally those cartoons were not meant solely for kids. Matter of fact, a lot of the themes were quite mature.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing like, oh, cartoons are just for kids. Nope.
Yeah, I got one about a cat for you by the name of Fritz. We'll talk about that another time.
Oh God, that.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, that was a cringe fest. That one.
Yeah, that was up there on the angle of Cool World, but those later.
Yeah, let's not go to that one.
Yeah.
So, really quickly,
was
since Heretic Woman is not here, I did go hunting, of course, to try to find some other information This week I got no information for you new as far as Rafe Badawi is concerned, unfortunately. Again, I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's unfortunately status quo, which in itself is a little annoying.
And the worst part is they have other people that they're doing the same thing that they've done to Rafe.
Yep.
In many cases, they didn't even release the names of the people that they did it to. The public knew that several people got dragged away for the same crime, but they don't have anybody who could identify who they were that got dragged away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Rafe is one of the lucky ones in that respect.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of, though, is that, and I pardon the pun on this one because it's not meant as one, there is no trump card.
No, there
I
isn't.
don't know if there is any kind of leverage the West could exert on Saudi Arabia to say, let these people go and we'll take the pressure off this. You can't sanction them because they're richer than anybody. They're one of the richest countries in the world.
Let's just put it this way. As long as we need their oil, they're not going to bow to us.
No,
Yeah.
they've got
our soon-to-be, Secretary of State, I believe, former head of Exxon or all that shit. Yeah. I watched the C-SPAN live cast of his basically the questioning that they gave him in front of all the various members of the the House, I think it was. Anyway, other politicians. Some went easy on him, some kind of grind at him, but ignoring who was asking what question for the moment, the answers that he gave indicated that he does not see a difference between oil gained or acquired through Canada versus oil bought from Saudi Arabia. He sees that as oil is oil. It doesn't matter where you buy it from. That makes no difference. In which the answer in reality is it does make a difference. That when you buy from Canada, you're helping the infrastructure and the economy of Canada. When you buy it from Saudi Arabia, you're helping the infrastructure and economy of Saudi Arabia. When you're dependent upon the oil, and the two countries in question know it, then they can actually start to say, well, you really need this, but unfortunately, supply the way it is right now, the price is going to go up a little bit, Maybe if you give us some of these concessions, we could drive the price back down so it's not too bad on your people, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So the ideal goal is to move on to wind, water, solar, thermal, if we have it in this country, if we have any good thermal vents that we could go from. And
I get two words for that. Yellowstone Park. That's a geothermal hotbed.
Yeah, but it's, like I said, ones that we could use, that's a national park. They may not go that route. But the point is alternatives. In massive alternatives. We have them. They work. We just need to implement them and use them. And people say, oh, well, people will have temporary jobs and then they'll be out of work. Not necessarily. Making jobs that set up that infrastructure will make jobs for maintaining that infrastructure, which will make jobs for people monitoring and working with it. It will make other jobs.
Well, and not only that, setting up the infrastructure, you improve the overall quality of life of the urban centers that you're servicing with these utilities. Greater urban centers, greater demand for consumer goods, greater opportunities for employment.
Yeah, I mean, think about the air quality in New Jersey we could have right now.
Ain't that the truth? And we'll kind of pick up on that again in a little bit. But just to cover,
this ties into Saudi Arabia is that if we want to have leverage in them, we got to have them come knocking on our doorstep, wanting from us, not us knocking on their doorstep, begging for their oil,
or just saying, you know what, we don't need you. But unfortunately, I'm not wearing my tinfoil hat right now, but I think it's more that guy's statement. Why did he say it? Chances are there's more going on there than just oil is oil is oil. I mean, intangibles, sudden favors, if you'll pardon the violence. There's a lot going on that I think that Saudi Arabia is doing to secure its relationship with the United States beyond supplying oil. Because if it was as simple as you say, Tech, even under Obama, any energy minister, whatever, worth their salt would have said, okay, yeah, Sheik, whatever, screw you. Hi, Canada, let's talk.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk through this area because there's a couple of different ways to go down, and I would really like to go down some of those particular rabbit holes on this one. Shut up, but unfortunately, I have to say two pieces on this. One is, of course, as of the recording of this show, this is now 4 years, 6 months, 29 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crimes. Not only are our hearts and thoughts with you and your family, but Raif, I know there's very likely little chance that you're ever going to get to see this or your family, but happy 33rd birthday.
Yeah.
We would really like you not to have been there, but there may not be a hell of a lot that we can really do about it, but we're trying to do what little we can. Good luck.
Keep the name out there.
Absolutely. So, why? Why is a far bigger word, a far bigger question conceptually than just the simple 3 letters. Why has got so much baggage behind it? It is the proverbial elephant in a bag magic trope that Deadpool gets to use and Pinkie Pie gets to use. Yes, there's a reference for you guys that didn't yet to see the death battle, and I'm not going to spoil it except that
Deadpool versus Pinkie Pie?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it ended exactly the way that it should have. But
With Deadpool kicking ass. Got it.
well, I got it linked.
Watch it.
Yeah, I got it linked in last week's show notes, so you can have that. Anyway,
Well, why is actually a very simple question, and and it has 2 possible simple answers. The first, which is usually what's going to get you an A in psychology, is why not?
Actually, isn't that more philosophy than psychology?
Okay, maybe philosophy.
He's leave him alone. He's a whale biologist. God damn it.
The humpbacks, my people. Anyway, there's the face palm. The second one is because, and because can be a very long answer or a very short answer, depending on your audience, depending on the details you're putting into the answer, the foundation of the people that you're talking to. Like what we talked about before, when 2 IT technicians talk versus an IT technician to a layman. You know, there's a lot more explaining going on when you're dealing with the layman, unless you know how to really make it a really simple, dumbed down analogy.
Yeah.
And for clarity, we, that's another one of those things. I don't know that I like saying "dumb down" anymore, and I'm not saying don't use it. You know that before I've said I don't want to use capital T truth anymore because there's too much wrapped around on stuff. I don't know that I want to use dumbing down anymore as a euphemism for simplifying. Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm saying that not because I want anybody to change the way that they're going to talk about stuff. I'm talking about the way that I'm going to talk about stuff for myself.
Let's just put it this way. When I had to make an analogy of changing the paper in the printer to that of peeling a banana, I felt dumb.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't. That's
But
I'm
it
trying to wrap my
worked.
head around that one.
But it worked.
okay.
Oh, well and good. I'm just, as someone who's been in your position, Tech, I'm just, no.
Yeah, PC load letter. The fuck does that mean?
No, I just can't.
Load letter means load letter size paper.
I know.
No,
I know. I know.
I know that. What I'm trying to make the connection is paper and a banana. That's where I'm trying to draw the parallels here.
As soon as somebody says
Someday it
apple,
will be a
they're
great
freaking
story,
kidding.
I promise.
I can just imagine. I can't wait to see the who is it?
Maybe I should make illustrations.
Yeah, write the new book for Minolta and see if they'll publish it.
Come to think of it, Tech, I would love to see. I would love to hear whatever this is as narrated by Digital Dog Cow.
Oh, if I gave Dog Cow the details and could get Dog Cow to tell it, we could get it on the silver screen.
We could. Some people are not going to get that reference, and you know what? I ain't going to explain it. Tough. Just go hunting. You will find. Google is your friend.
You know, I think
Complete archive of the Digital Dog Cow.
Yeah.
I think one of the worst, or like you were talking about dumbing down, and it actually brought me to dealing with creationists or apologists. Kind of circling the drain here a little bit. Especially when you look at, creation versus evolution. Now, previous guest on this show and gentleman I've had the pleasure of meeting, Aaron Ra. Okay, turn this guy loose on anything to do with biology, phylogeny, clades, taxonomy.
Even humpback whales?
Even humpback whales.
Oh,
Now,
cool.
the majority of the words I have just spoken there all come from stuff that are basically all from him, because based on everything I've listened to from him, it's easy to get lost. And, when, like you were talking about dumbing down, so the apologist says, well, why this? But then when you start to go into the explanation, they're like, no. Can you simplify it? And of course, if you can't, well, then they're going to refuse to learn it, and therefore you're wrong. You're wrong because you can't explain it to me in that simple format. You can't dumb it down for me. Although I've never heard an apologist say, pretend I'm an idiot. Because quite frankly, that's opening the door. Just that's throwing the door wide open.
Why do you have to pretend?
No. Hold on a second, because I forgot what movie it was, but there was a scene.
God's not dead.
No.
Hold on.
No. I forgot what the hell the name of the movie was.
What was the theme?
Tom Hanks in court, getting steadily and progressively more sick.
Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you. And one of the jurists, I think it was the jury head, went ahead and in deliberations went and actually asked everyone something that one of the attorneys had said. Talk to me like I'm a 4-year-old, or I'm paraphrasing it because I don't remember exactly what it was, but talk to me about this like I'm a 4-year-old. Explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Again, I'm paraphrasing because I forget exactly what the line was, but this is something that's relatively important. And because I haven't gotten you yet, Bridget, I want to kind of run something past you. I know that your specialty is not in psychology or psychiatry, but you've dealt with enough people in various different fashions in the medical area before. I have to imagine you've dealt with younger people before, teens, even younger than teens, probably, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The younger kids get, the simpler the questions seem to be, at least as far as they're asking them. Why is, why does, why? Would, as someone who's had to deal with, why does it hurt so much when this happens? why did my arm break? I mean, these seem to be what kids at a much younger age would ask. Very simple, straightforward, direct questions like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As someone who is a medically trained person, or even better, someone much more lay for a second, a parent has to try to explain why did you what's a perfect example? What is it called? Milkmaid's elbow, I think is what it's called, or nursemaid's elbow. I forget what it is. Where no, where a young kid, maybe you're lifting them up and swinging them, and their elbow or their arm kind of
Dislocates.
twists wrong, sort of, and then pops in. Am I remembering the right name for this?
I think it was. I think it's nursemaid's elbow.
Okay.
But
Yeah, it's nursemaid's elbow.
Okay, thanks. A kid is all upset and it hurts, and how hard must it be as a medical person to kind of rein in however many years of training that you've ever had to try to explain to a much simpler mind, okay, I can't tell you about all the ligature and ligaments and all that stuff as to what happened and how it happened like that, but I need to tell you something because I don't want you to feel like you're a dummy, because that's tough as a parent. As a medical person, how do you deal with trying to explain to someone, especially with this age difference? I may not be even asking the question the right way, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of my head how.
I think what you're trying to ask is, how do you explain to a parent a medical problem with the child without insulting the parent
or the child? Maybe not necessarily at the same time, but separately.
I mean, what I do is try to put my mind into the place of where the child is and remember what it was like to be that young, and explain it to them that way.
Empathy and sympathy, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. We don't
have a lot of that around these days.
No.
Well, and that kind of thing also helps. Like, I'll use a real world example. My job. Part of my job is training. Now, I'm training people who have, driven a vehicle for 15, 20 years. And now I'm suddenly I'm going to put a little computer on their vehicle and explain them how to do certain things. Or I'm showing people in an office how to use this program so they can better check their vehicles. And every time I sit in a class, I stand in front of a classroom full of people, whether it's 5 people or 50. Actually, if it's 50, I'm going to get agoraphobia and run the hell out of there screaming.
I shouldn't laugh at that. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's valid. I mean, it's pretty intimidating when you are basically coming in, a guy who's worked at a company for a handful of years. Now you're going to be telling a couple of 20-year seasoned veterans at their profession how to do their job from this day forward. You are walking into a veritable lion's den of vanity, ego, condescension. I've had that happen to me a couple of times. But what I try to do, just like what Bridget said, is I ask myself, okay, what was I like 2 weeks in? How did I feel? I have to talk at that level to these people. And even then, sometimes I have to go even further. I have to regress even further sometimes. So yeah, putting your head in, putting yourself, like you said, empathy, putting yourself in their shoes, to borrow a phrase. That's usually the best way to get your point across. Yeah,
and let me show how nuts this can be. I have some information about what I'm about to do, and I'm gonna kind of put Joey on the spot for a second here. We talked last night about one of the things, Dallin. You missed out on this, so you're gonna have a good laugh on this one.
Much
A
to my
little
chagrin,
bit.
yeah.
It's okay. It's okay, Joey. One of the things that we talked about last night was making a portable hole.
Put it in a bag of holding.
No. For doing this for real. Doing this for real. The idea was that with a large enough caliber gun, you can make a hole through most walls. My joke, of course, was that you could have an 88 Magnum shoot through school, or you could have a PSP and shoot through pretty much anything in the universe. It's not what you think. But anyway, we talked about that. So here's where I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit, and please don't go crazy and get upset with me. If I were to say, well, first off, I've forgotten. What do you remember roughly what that gun in particular was? I've forgotten.
Which one?
Where you guys where we were talking about shooting enough to make a hole so that you can make a door through.
50.
Okay.
M2 Browning.
Okay. So if I was to go ahead and say, well, all right, we started off. What was it? Okay, it was Browning M2. The easy question, of course, is why? Where do I want to start? Why does this make a hole, quote unquote, in a wall?
Well, one, it's fully automatic. In fact, yeah, there are several things that go into this. Hold on.
I'm not looking for super techie. You know that.
I know that, but because if you just try to shoot a hole through a wall with, say a pistol, even a Magnum, you're just going to get one tiny little hole. You're not going to get like a doorway.
Unless you got an 88 Magnum, in which case it's a whole lot.
Well, I'll just put a hole in you. Put a hole in you. Your dog can sleep in.
88 Magnum. I thought the only one as high as 50 right now.
Look up 80. Look up 88 Magnum.
I will.
Tell you what. Look up 600 Action Express.
No, look up 88 Magnum. That's going to be funnier first.
Oh, okay. I forgot that old reference.
It's fully automatic. It fires up to, on average, about 600 rounds a minute. It has a muzzle velocity of nearly 3,000 feet per second.
Why?
Because it was originally designed to take out tanks.
Why?
Because it was World War I and things were strange.
This is where it's going to get to be really funny in a really, really fast moment.
Yeah.
Why?
Because the League of Nations was a failure.
Now I want to go down why on that one again. I was
for a while.
Well, what I was actually waiting for you to say was that because everybody was in a drunken pissing match in the middle of Europe and it was 1914. That's when I was waiting for.
Well, actually, you could very easily equate World War One. And I'm sorry, I'm just talking about the circumstances, not the actual like human loss and tragedy.
Yes.
But the circumstances of World War One are actually directly equatable to a bar fight.
Yeah, it was. And yes, we could go ahead and say why again, because it's simplifying a really complex set of problems that happened. That, in hindsight, 100 years later, is we can laugh at a little bit, haha, right? It's funny, a little bit. Okay, fine. I'm not going to make a potato joke, so it doesn't matter. But see, that's the thing. Why just keeps drilling down. That's the beauty of why, and that's why is something that puts the fear of God into people, so to speak. You forgive me, because you can't lose your place. You have to kind of bookmark every time you drill down further and further and further with why. And somehow or other, I get the funny feeling that that is the reason why there's such fear when why comes up, because you have to explain the concepts over and over and over and deeper and deeper and deeper. And wow.
I does
What's
make sense to say though.
What does that come down to? What was the argument of irreducible complexity? Is there something about that?
There is the idea that you get to a certain point where you can't get there through a natural method.
Yeah, or you're
sort of,
or you're testing a person's knowledge. Why this? Why that? And they keep going until they hit the I don't know part.
Now,
Let's face it, we all hit it at some point.
Yeah.
On a particular subject.
I did not properly answer your question, Shujin, because there's the biggest reason why it's good at making doors. Your typical 9mm parabellum round, your handgun round, exerts about 500 foot-pounds of force.
I would otherwise stop you and say why, but moving on.
The 50 delivers over 2,000 joules, or about 15,000 foot-pounds of force with each round.
Bridget, do you remember before we mentioned about how feel like shit is the technical term? The human body equivalent for the technical term of this is red mist, if I remember correctly, yes? That sounds about right. I think that's the technical term. That is the technical term, isn't it?
One of the best descriptions of this gun. Now, remember, this thing was made in, before 1920. It was developed 1918.
Okay, yeah, that is before 1920. Good on you.
So one of my favorite descriptions ever heard of this thing was the M2 Browning, turning enemies into red jelly since before your granddaddy was in diapers.
That's one way of wording it.
Yet another example of, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. An old-fashioned gun that still makes a good old-fashioned hole in people or walls.
No, it does not make holes in people. When it hits, there is no people left for.
I should say it makes holes out of people then. Sorry.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And yeah, Bridget, red mist. That is the technical term. I just looked it up. Didn't look up jack shit. Man. The only thing I'm looking up is
now the technical term is fertilizer. It's an automatic fertilizer.
Yes, it is. Now, see, where it was actually looking to go down to, if you go asking the why with firearms, you can very easily get down to the why of the chemistry of gunpowder. Because you go down the right way.
Because some Chinese alchemists were looking for the secret to eternal life and instead found the absolute opposite.
Well, that's only if you
That's actually exactly the story.
Yeah. Testing practical application.
The only thing
they decided on fireworks after that.
Yeah, gunpowder, I think one of the only good uses of gunpowder, or at least parts of it, is for making the jalapeno peppers that you grow in your garden spicier. I could be wrong about that.
Funny enough, the original use of gunpowder was not for guns.
Seriously?
Yes.
If you say it was for jalapeno peppers.
The original gun, one thing that you have to know, gunpowder does not explode. It burns.
Mm-hmm.
It burns at a rapid rate, and the gases expand. The gunpowder itself does not explode. There's a difference. Originally, gunpowder had been developed to, as we saw with plenty of alchemy, the secret of eternal life. They were looking. That's why they had a little bit of mercury in there and a little bit of all this. The original gunpowder just fizzled and burned, but it burned rather easily. So it was used as a fire starter, and as a pretty much in early Chinese fireworks. It was not used originally as a kind of military weapon.
Oh, so it had nothing to do with Gorn incursions, is what you're saying?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Besides, as thick as the leather was, I'm pretty sure it was bulletproof anyway.
Oh, that's what the quartz was for.
Anyway, kids, look up that reference later.
But I will have to give them props on that one, because the original guns were in fact made from bamboo shafts that had been bound in leather.
Later.
Yeah,
later.
no,
Later.
the arquebus. You can correct me on this one, Joey.
Even before that.
Oh yeah, no, I realize that, but where I sort of picked up with first firearms back in history class had to do with the arquebus when people were coming over here, and it was the ultimate Hail Mary gun. That thing.
It was effectively a single shot shotgun.
Yeah, but you didn't know if it was going to work. It was either going to kill that guy or your day was going to be really, really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, geez. Yeah, see, if there's one thing that we learned from Mythbusters, the most dangerous point is when the explosive doesn't go off. Yeah, that's a bad moment right there, isn't it, Joey? You don't want to be on you don't want to be on the detail that's supposed to go, oh shit, we gotta yeah,
no, the worst moment is when the recruit is supposed to throw the grenade over the foxhole, hits the tree, and it bounces back into the foxhole.
That's a bad day. That's a really bad day.
Drill sergeant picked that guy up and threw his ass.
Okay, so we'll leave that aside for a second. So back on track. Why do we ask why? Okay, why do we ask why? I've got my answer, of course, and I try really hard. You know full well I tried not to talk as much as because I kind of control the show. But to me, asking why is the ultimate. To me, asking why is the ultimate. I don't know. Please explain. Please tell me that you have more information than me, and you can teach me something.
Well, the whole prospect of science is just the big question of why.
Ain't that
Why
the
does
truth?
this work this way? Why are it's
Well,
kind of like quantum physics is the biggest why.
Why has been probably the biggest forwarding factor in human history. One, we have science. Even before that, even looking at the origins of religion, why did this flood destroy our crop? Because we angered the gods. Why does the sun rise in the morning? Because this god has this chariot, and
nice.
What?
The reference to the sun gods.
Well, it could be worse. I mean, yeah, it could be Ra, it could be Celestia for all we know. It doesn't really much matter. The point is we don't know why, so why not?
That's your one. That is your one time.
Actually, Joey, that's his two, because you missed the Deadpool versus Pinkie Pie.
Well, I had to get a drink.
There you go.
Well, that one doesn't so much count.
The something about science though that was acknowledged that created science, if you will, was the fact that why was too broad a question. So they had to come out with the methodology to narrow down, okay, this is the big, bold question. Now we have to figure out all the little components that can answer this question. And we have like the scientific method. We have all sorts of stuff and different ways of breaking things down.
We can also
go ahead.
Well, we can also say that it is also the root of some of our law systems. For example, you go way, 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 way back. Why should I give a portion of my grain to this warlord? Oh, because the warlord has soldiers who can protect me. Or why shouldn't I kill this particular guy? Because he makes tools, and I might need tools.
Or because if I go kill them, then my neighbors might get the same idea that it's okay to kill me in response to other people being killed.
Why
And
should
I don't want to die.
Why should I work with this guy? Because, a fight of 2-on-1 is a lot better than 1-on-1.
Yeah. Why should I live around other people? Safety in numbers. It's a primal thing.
But at the same time, just because we ask the question why, doesn't mean we get good answers in the process.
That's right.
We have, why should I follow this person? Well, because their bloodline is royalty. Well, why is their bloodline royalty? It's been ordained by their god. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, great. What?
Yeah, then you start getting into the scientific area, and Bridget, perfect opportunity. Here you go. Why are people sick? Well, the humors are wrong. Well, how do we change the humors? Remember
Bleed 'em.
leeches? Remember those
Bleed 'em.
days?
Yeah.
Did you bleed them all out until they get everything out? Now, okay.
I still love the fact that they got rid of leeches in terms of this woo-woo methodology towards medical science. But then they realized, hey, wait a minute, there actually is a valid medical use for these things.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
keep
something
using them for this.
Yeah.
But isn't there something like an anticoagulant in their?
Yes.
Bridget, do it. Come on,
yes,
you know
there are medical applications for using leeches. If you have a really big hematoma, it can help reduce that.
Jeez, where the hell were those last February?
If you have an amputation and they're able to sew it back on, putting leeches on the amputation can help reconstruct the blood vessels between
that's
the
right, I heard about that,
amputation.
Yeah, so Dallin, just to clarify on this, are you really going to complain that you didn't get leeches, considering that leeches probably would have been best used for amputations?
Fair enough. I
Good
mean,
point. Exactly. Moving on.
No, the heparin was good. I'll admit that.
I'm still waiting to see the Ren Fair first aid station where, they've got just rows of leeches hanging in the front of it.
Robert,
It would be a gimmick, Mike.
Don't give them any ideas.
It wouldn't be real leeches, or maybe they could have an aquarium in the back that actually had leeches in it. But, if people go, oh, look, I really do have this ailment, I really need those leeches, it's like, okay, this is a gag. Seek professional medical help. Have a nice day. Bye-bye now. Okay, nice lady. Bye-bye.
No, I'm thinking for Ren Fair, if you really wanted to do this, hold on a second.
Or you could bring in the maggots, too.
You could. You could.
Oh.
You do realize I had a rice stir fry for supper tonight? I won't be
I
able
was
to
eating
eat leftovers for at
cheese.
least a week.
I was eating cheese, so let's not go there.
But they have practical applications, too,
Yeah, that's
Yes,
true.
they do.
as far as taking care of necrotizing tissue. Yeah.
And they're a great,
Those are all the rage in Australia then.
they're a great source of protein.
Hell, there are fish that eat dead human skin. That what they do is they put the fish basically in a pool,
Don't do that.
and you stick your feet in it. And what they do is they destroy the calluses on your feet. So when you pull your feet out, because calluses are nothing more than dead skin, when you pull your feet out, your feet are silky smooth, but they tickle. Well, what's really funny is the lake by me. I had sunburn on my legs, so my legs were peeling, and I had taken my son over there because the lake also has a beachfront. He was playing in the sand. I put my legs in the water, and the fish were nibbling, and it tickled. And when I got out, I had no more flaky skin.
I was expecting you were going to say this was starting to look like a piranha infestation, and they were just going nuts after your legs.
No. They don't eat the live. So your healthy skin is completely left alone, just like Bridget was talking about with the maggots.
Yeah. What I was going to say a couple of moments ago that was what would be really cool would be at a Ren Fair, you make fake leeches out of like gummy leeches, maybe, I guess, but you put like some like sticky stuff like spirit gum on it and stick it onto people and put a little bit of makeup on it and walking around with leeches on them.
Pipe cleaners.
No.
With googly eyes. You can have leeches with googly eyes.
No. Now you're making me think of the lotus blossom nipples, and don't do that to me. I really didn't need
Wait,
that.
wait! You
Thanks.
saw some woman's nipples turn into lotus blossoms? Boink!
Over in the chiming chat there. Thank you, by the way, Trip and Full. Think they'd rather dance with rattlesnakes for the anticoagulation medicine.
I think there was a pastor who found out how anticoagulant some of those snakes were.
Well, I was going to say, you might need a wee bit of refinement on that particular formula
Well,
before you want to introduce that into the system. I'm just saying.
I think we should introduce that to the evangelicals and the fundamentalists.
while we're on the
no,
subject,
wait a minute. The Pentecostals are already doing that.
while we're on the subject of animals, because
Watch it.
well,
Plays a good drum.
in most religious circles, and each animal has like a purpose that it was designed for.
Watch it.
Scapegoat.
The only thing I have is hornets. Why? Because that's why.
That's true. That's true. And,
Japanese hornets.
Well, no,
Susan
actually,
knows what I'm talking about.
no, that was because they just needed something new to drink. Look up a beverage called VAM, VAAM. I believe
hey,
that's what it's called.
They were that size before we irradiated the area.
That's true. That's true. By the
Damn
way,
energy. Vespa
I have-
amino acid mixture metabolizes fat into energy. It's a sports drink.
Yes, but apparently it uses a component from the hornet.
It's supposed to help you lose weight too. It's like, well, listen, if you have so much of a basically caffeine or stimulant running through your body that you're running 4 miles to school in the morning rather than taking the bus, of course you're going to lose weight. You're going to lose weight while your heart explodes.
that's
Well,
good.
that's at least 2 pounds. Then you're done with that.
Wow, that's great. By the way, the Japanese hornets, I have in my hand a 5B. There we go. Drumstick. Yes, I've played drums in high school. This guy, which is about the same size as my finger, around. That's the size of those little flying pieces of stabbing death.
The general rule of thumb is that they are about the size of your thumb.
No, we're not going to do. Trippin has also said one of the pastors died after refusing treatment after being bit by rattlesnakes. Bridget, you know what time it is. We need to have a death count specifically for these dumbass MFers for snakes. Snake biting, as I understand it, as I've seen, is a very problematic event in the best of situations.
Yeah. Why did he die?
I know exactly why he died.
Well, I know, but I'm looking for an explanation from a medical expert.
She'll get around to it eventually. I don't know where she went to, but I know what the answer is.
I'm reminded of a joke. Has anybody heard the joke about the guy caught in the middle of the flood? And some neighbor walks up. Neighbor approaches in a boat. The waters are kind of low, but it's still safe to get out. And says, "Here, come with me. We'll get you out of here." And the man says, "No, God will provide."
Yep.
And then the water rises higher, and he's on the second floor. Another person comes by in a boat. "Hey, come on, get out of here. You want to live? Come with me." And the guy goes, "If God is willing, He will provide." And then finally, the waters are so high, it's up to the roof. The guy's on the roof. Helicopter flies by, throws down a rope. "Come on, grab the rope. We'll get you out of here." It's like, nope. If God wants me to live, God will provide. And the water's right so high, he dies. Goes up to the pearly gates, gets inside, walks up to the guy, goes, "Hey, what's going on?" And the guy looks at him and goes, "What? I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What more did you want?"
Yeah, it comes down to. Yeah, it comes down to. Ooh.
We have doctors and anti-venoms. What more do you want? And we had the knowledge of not to play with snakes. What more could you want?
Actually, this gets to be more fun because I just remembered. It's not even that. Anybody remember the reports about how they would keep these snakes? Sometimes they would keep them in a cool environment to slow them down, to feed them beforehand so they don't want to be eating and to milk them perhaps so that they don't have as much venom even if they did. And that doesn't very much sound like God's providing to me. What do you think there, Tacky?
No, I think it's somebody skirting around the corners of their faith and justifying things and saying, "Oh, it's okay for my wife to give me a grocery list and tell me that this is what we must have for dinner tonight. But, this lady over here, she can't have an opinion because the Bible says that, women must be subservient to men." And yet Mike Pence will go out and get ice cream when his wife demands ice cream.
Yeah. There's a little bit of stuff going on behind the curtain that Dorothy and the others aren't supposed to look behind.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if somebody like Pence is going to take away body autonomy from women because of his religious background and mentality of women are beneath men, women are supposed to listen to men and everything else, and then his wife tells him to go get ice cream and he runs off fetching ice cream. It's like, okay, so what you're saying is for everybody else this applies, but not for my wife.
What's that? Who is it? Was it the Man song? I'm the man only when you tell me to.
Oh, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of where I see it a lot with these
I haven't heard
with
of
guys like Pence.
It's my castle when she's not around,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That one. It's you see a lot of that. Like to the masses, it is Ephesians. It is the woman shall live beneath the man, etc., etc.
See, there's a method to my madness.
But for them, it's something different.
Yep.
I highly doubt, or I'm pretty sure. Again, if Pence decided to play that on his wife when she asked him to go get some ice cream, the next man that Pence's wife would be talking to would be the funeral director.
Nah. Divorce attorney.
Nah, don't. Which, by the way, Dallin, I don't know if I don't know how well you remember it, and Joey, I don't remember how well you remember it, but remember the Possum Lodge oath?
I'm a man, but I can change. If I have to. I guess.
That's well, we'll have to find that. Shit. Somebody mark me so that I can remember to put that in there. But yeah, snake handling.
I'm not apologizing for being a man.
No, we're not. We're actually kind of making fun of. Red Green kids, don't look it up. Don't worry about looking it up. I'm going to put the link over in the notes.
Is that Canadian program?
Yes.
Yeah, the Red Green.
Okay,
show.
I know what you're talking about. I've heard a couple of them.
Yeah, somebody drop a thing in there so I don't forget. What was I going to say? Oh, and welcome back, Bridge. Snakes, rattlesnakes. Even though they might have been cold so that they were not moving around, and fed so that they're not really hungry, and maybe milked of venom so they don't have very much. That's still not any guarantee of not dying if you get bit by those suckers. And we've seen that. Trippin was just saying, 2014, man, Pentecostals dead because, dumbasses. Even though they rigged the deck.
And it only takes a few drops.
Yeah. Now there is a shit. Now there's another YouTube video I'm gonna have to find. I
have a favorite saying about Mother Nature. Mother Nature doesn't give warnings. She makes examples.
Ain't that the truth? There is an example that shows what a petri dish of blood. I forget how much it was, and then a couple of drops, maybe
of snake venom.
And this petri dish of however much blood was in there, and it wasn't it was a grand amount, but it all turned into. Well, actually, I don't know. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot for a whole bunch of techie stuff in the medical side, Bridge. I'm sorry. That's kind of.
Don't forget, this depends on the type of snake venom too.
True. But when blood coagulates like that. Now, I'm assuming that you've seen this particular video.
I haven't.
Okay.
I just posted a link in the chat for the video you're asking about.
I put the English version in there.
Okay. Bridget, can you actually look at that video and not screw everything up and come back?
I will try to. Is it the one that Dolan posted or not?
Well, the one I did was actually from Australia.
Let me go watch this.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and mute yourself out. We'll come back to you.
The one I have is done in India.
Okay. So anyway, while she's looking that over, like I was saying, with the guys that do end up getting bit and surviving, usually the why to that usually is either really got lucky or they really stacked the deck in their favor. Like I was saying, there are reports of they've been milked ahead of time, so they didn't have time enough to regenerate their supply of venom. They've been fed ahead of time so that they're kind of docile and they don't really want to bite anybody. They've been kept cool, so, cold-blooded animal, they don't want to move around a lot yet because they're kind of cold. Or, and this is the one that I love the most, they've had their fangs removed. Like I said, stack the deck in your favor, and it's amazing what you can get away with, because a sucker's born every minute. If my memory serves, Bridget, that video should have been pretty well done for you at this point if you've been able to take a look at that. That's a technical term for it. All right, thank you very much for watching. Good night.
Talk about massive coagulation, and
Yeah.
that would keep blood from going to your vital organs and things, which would not be a good thing.
Yeah,
Or anywhere.
the spoiler on
anywhere
this
else.
one is, the spoiler of this one is basically a couple of drops of this particular snake's venom turns your blood into pudding.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
not
saw
even.
that.
Pudding would at least have some flow to it.
Oh no,
This-
this stuff
This
does.
was like looked like a gelatinous mass. Just,
Yeah.
ugh.
it's really disgusting to look at, but from a biological point of view, it's
That
really
would fuck you up.
Yeah,
Okay, that's it. Good night, everybody.
yeah. You're not going to have a very good day.
The effect being that your blood goes from being the consistency of blood to that of gelatin.
Yeah.
Makes it really hard
Or
for
like
your
pudding.
blood to transport oxygen and such through the bloodstream,
Or anything for
Which-
that matter.
which it effectively just clots all the blood vessels around that area, and God help you if there's a portion of that breaks off and makes its way to the heart of the brain.
Yeah.
Or your lungs.
Speaking from a little bit of experience, it can really mess up your day. Especially if, you've been bitten and suddenly things you took for granted, being able to breathe, your heartbeat,
Living.
Yeah.
And
breathing.
no, before
being able to
anybody
move.
before anybody even suggests it, no, you do not try to suck out the poison.
Especially if the arrow is stuck in the butt.
Or the taint. We'll talk about that another time.
That's two.
Or the cloaca.
That's three.
That's another one for another. Okay, Bridget. In all seriousness, though, having seen that, obviously, I'm going to assume that this is something pretty much new to you. You've never dealt with this before, and like you were saying, you've not seen this video until now. Finally,
I just saw that. That's
I have to imagine that this has got to be. There's no other term for it. This has got to be fucking scary as hell from a medical standpoint to you.
yeah. What kind of snake was that?
A venomous snake.
I know that, but what kind?
hold on,
Different
let's
kinds
see.
of venom.
You know,
Let's see.
Well, I think
Because there are some venoms that actually thin out your blood and destroy your platelets and work
Yeah.
that way. And
hold on,
make
somebody
it
has
where you
already asked
can't
this question
blood.
repeatedly.
What's that?
Snake venom that coagulates blood. It's a viper.
Okay.
And
Actually, did Bridget? Did you watch the video with sound?
I was it was competing with you guys talking and stuff, so I didn't really hear what they were saying.
Okay. Yeah, because when I clicked on it, I'm playing it, but that page is muted for me because of, obviously, of the show. Well, if you give me a second, I can probably. I'll find out.
yeah, it's okay. There's several different types of snakes: vipers, elapids, colubrids, and in this particular case, it's a viper. As to exactly which viper, I don't see that here.
I was lucky. I got lucky.
Did you?
About 10 seconds in,
Russell's viper.
Actually, this particular one, the video that I showed, was the tiger snake.
So I was going to say rattlesnakes usually cause you to bleed out.
Yeah.
Rattlesnakes typically use my mic's on. Yeah.
No, you're on.
Rattlesnakes are among the viper family, and they typically use hemotoxins, which are the ones that affect blood flow and pretty much the jello that you saw earlier.
Okay, so
two major things that snakes like to use are hemotoxins and neurotoxins. Cobras typically use neurotoxins. Those will actually thin out the blood to better facilitate the spread of the neurotoxin.
okay, now here's the wrap in with us. Why would nature develop arguably one of the most dangerous? I'm gonna go ahead and make this anthropomorphized, and I'm sorry, there's a reason for it, not the obvious one. Why would nature make such an incredibly powerful weapon of warfare? And the easy answer, of course, is because it could. But that in and of itself is very much not a happy answer.
But also because it had to.
Yeah.
Biologically speaking, snakes have a number of deficiencies, namely limbs.
Yeah.
Limbs make catching prey easy. Now, some snakes manage to overcome this by
Dropping upon people from above.
getting really big and being able to crush its prey. But a lot of snakes are fairly small in size, and so they had to develop a different method. And venom was the one for them.
Yeah.
They have to eat.
Yeah.
And why the different types of venom? We have to contextualize where they are, what their prey is, and something in that may have facilitated why a neurotoxin over a hemotoxin, or why oh damn, what's the term?
Why constriction instead of?
Well, no, I mean, Joey basically said that, in some places they grew abnormally large and were able to crush. That could have been in a place where prey was plentiful. And there were lots, so that a snake could grow big because it had a lot to eat.
Holy shit.
Whereas you look at a poisonous snake like the sidewinder, rattlesnake, desert dweller, not a lot of fun of kicking around.
You also don't want your prey to get away.
That's
That
true.
too.
Or maybe you just want to find the fountain of youth. According to this, the Russell's viper venom can also affect the pituitary gland, this pea-sized organ involved in hormone production. A 1987 study of 24 people that had previously been bitten by the viper found that 7 had clinical features of hypopituitarism, which often results in the loss of secondary sex characteristics like curviness in women and facial hair on men. In other words, basically kind of reverses puberty a bit.
So what you're saying, Tech, is that you've never been bitten by a snake, then?
Oh, thank God.
Well,
As
I
he
love
strokes
this
and
beard.
kisses his beard.
I love
you
you.
know, I was going to say either he hasn't or he's secretly a female dwarf and we don't know it.
By the way, those of you who are out like me, who like your beard, do a search for Psychostick. Obey the beard.
Now for the biggest question of why that we've all been dancing around for the last few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Why doesn't the honey badger care about any of this?
Because the honey badger doesn't give no shit to nobody. That's why.
Honey badger doesn't give a shit.
That's true.
Enough.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so the thing with the what'd you say was the pituitary?
Beard? Yeah, the pituitary gland.
Okay.
I can say it really. Hypopituitarism.
Okay.
Basically, there's it affects anywhere from 1 to 8 of the hormones that the pituitary gland in the brain produces, and when one or several of them are affected by this venom, and they are permanently decreased, that which is brought about by puberty, like I said, the curviness of a woman or like facial hair on men, just being two very obvious mental concepts, are basically reversed. So, like for somebody like me, I could see my facial hair maybe start to thin out and eventually go away and stop growing.
But that would be in humans. So now
Well,
I'm kind
the
of
study
wondering-
was done on human beings who had been
yes.
bitten and survived.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was 24 people, only 7 of them exhibited this trait.
And I think that answers the question right there that you were about to ask, and I could see it. Why this side effect?
Sort of. I was actually thinking more along the lines of what does this particular venom, I'm not sure if that quite is right, what would it do to other prey? Or is it analogous to whatever normal prey would be?
Well, I think the original design of the venom is to kill. Like survival is definitely the exception to the rule in this case.
Well, you know what? Hold on a second.
Well, don't forget something else. When there have been times throughout history where things, whether they're people or animals, living organisms in general, were targeted either by another living organism or just by something in nature just kind of happened that would normally kill them, and they managed to beat the odds. The coin toss, they pulled the wild card out of the hat, whatever the case might be.
They were on the good side of the LD50.
Yeah, that statistical anomaly occurred, and they survived. And a lot of those events change that organism. Like, look at people who have been struck by lightning. There are a lot of cases of people who have been struck and survived, but it does some really strange shit to them. Okay, not just their mentality and not just the burn sites from where they were struck and where it was exited, but long-term lasting things. The same thing with this venom here, where a small minority of people who have survived it, a smaller minority of that group, has had it affect the pituitary gland in specifics. So we can see this all throughout history, of documented history, I should say. The stuff that we haven't documented, well, whatever.
Yeah, but I think where I'm really going on this is, what is the cumulative effect? Now, admittedly, it's a small number. It's a small percentage.
Yeah, it's less than 30%.
Right. Of these people. Now, what would this end up doing? Now, the reason I'm saying that is that if this would be bringing the physical characteristics of these people towards okay, I may not be explaining this quite correctly, so please forgive me a second. If this would be bringing 30% of these survivors' bodies towards androgyny, and like I said, I'm probably stating this really poorly. Please forgive me. This is my own ignorance, but more towards androgyny. Does this cause
Problems.
a population to become later better prey?
I don't
And I
know
don't think-
because this doesn't sound like something that would affect the genetic code when one of those organisms reproduce. Okay, it's not like something that affects not only the pituitary gland but rewrites their DNA in, whether it's their in the eggs that are produced by the or the sperm. It sounds more of it just affects that one particular being.
Right. But remember, we're talking about a subpopulation that survived the encounter. Now remember, when you weed out those that don't survive, the ones that do are the ones that are, well, by definitionally able to survive.
Yeah, but you're also talking about a population of people who not everybody's getting bitten by this thing.
True, but we're talking about the ones that did.
Right. The problem is, though, that I see the direction that you're going in. What if the world were populated only by people who were surviving this, and there were no other people on the planet?
That's you know what?
That's an interesting question.
No, it isn't, because it's a real simple one. We would call this. We would change the name of the planet to Australia.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is not everybody in Australia has been bitten by the Russell Viper.
Bullshit. I call absolute bullshit on that. Yes, they have. Sooner or later.
No, they haven't, because I have seen photos of what the hell's that guy's name now? Son of a bitch.
Jake Farwarton.
Yeah, that asshole. He has never been bitten by a snake. His beard is way too thick to have been bitten by a snake.
No, he does not have a Jake. Seriously, please come back to the show again. Please come back to the show again.
Wait, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong asshole.
You're thinking
Hold on a second.
Maybe it's David Smalley. That's who it is.
No.
Maybe
Dave's
it's Morgan Moore.
Australian?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna keep naming names until we've pissed off fucking everybody.
Actually,
Wait, how
okay,
many people are you trying to get me call asshole is the question here.
Seth,
what about Nick Morgan Moore? That's his name.
That's the asshole I'm talking about. He's got a beard.
You're welcome.
Thank you. He's got a beard. He's definitely not been bitten by a Russell, and he's Australian. He even admits it.
I'm sure that Seth Andrews has never been called an asshole to his face. I'm sure
He's not Australian.
He's not an asshole either.
No, but Nick Morganmore or whatever the hell.
Nicky.
Yeah, I think it was Nick Morganmore. Anyway, he's Australian. He's got a pretty good beard. He shaved recently, I believe. Just by pointing out that one person who's from Australia and has definitely not a baby face, I've just proven your point wrong.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but you do raise an interesting idea, an interesting question. What would happen if, say, the population of the Earth everybody was bitten by this viper, and then you only have the group of people, the only people who are left are the people who survived, and then just under 30% of those people have all experienced this trait. Now, if you take around the people, the 70+% people who haven't had, you move them to a separate planet or whatever, and you just isolate this one group, and they continue to reproduce and such, what happens down the road with the other generations? It's an interesting question, but right now we don't have a real way to test that because we can't isolate them like that. It's an ethical question.
Ain't that the truth?
Is this something a kind of dilemma that needs to be answered by setting ethics aside to kind of generate that experiment. And I think the answer would be no, because we have enough diversity and everything else. This isn't really going to be an issue. And also, since hypopituitarism is brought about by other things as well, and we already have treatments for that, because, for example, one of the hormones is TSH. I forget what it stands for, but it has to do with the thyroid. Okay, and if you don't have enough of it, your thyroid isn't responding the way it's supposed to. So we actually have a treatment for that for people who suffer from that particular problem. Okay, so in terms of these people being bitten by the snake, medical science is at a state where we can go, look, we understand you got bitten by a snake, you're having this problem. Here's this hormone supplement to help curb this problem for you. Have a nice day. Come back and see me in 3 weeks. Here's my bill.
I see these.
Unless you're in Canada, in which Canada, here you go, have a nice time.
Now,
here's not quite.
No, not quite. But now see, here's the thing. Why starts to bring you down into areas not just backwards to try to figure out why did something, but it brings you forward also to try to figure out what going forward is going to end up happening. Once something once you figured out the baseline back behind you, as far back as you can go, accurately, and that's the important part, you start to ask forward, why did this happen? Okay, that's just one step behind you.
Because you went to Australia.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Or you were born there. One of the two.
Some people are lucky enough to have not
been born there.
And some people are lucky enough that they don't have to know what flying spiders are.
Although I think Australians are kind of looking at us, looking at Trump and going, there are some people who willingly go to America, and then there's the poor saps who were born there.
Ain't that the truth? God damn it. Anyway, but why? Why?
Because not enough people fucking voted.
Well, okay, that's a whole other thing. Why takes you backwards to try to understand the mechanics? Why is a set of dominoes, and I've used this analogy before, one falls after another, after another, after another, and if those don't necessarily connect, it don't go anywhere. Now, like I said, I've used this analogy before, over and over and over again, because it's a simplified concept. It's hard to implement with some people, but it's a simple enough concept. But why in its different form takes you forward? It becomes what? What will happen? And that's one of those things where we start to go into saying, science bitches, it works.
Yeah.
Because by extension, you go forward with why, which now becomes what, and you can figure out what's going to happen.
You can also become the who, the where, the hows.
Well, that's the one thing. And where you're touching on, Shujin, reminds me a lot of what I heard Bill Nye say to Ken Ham about things about the fossil record, geology, testable models.
Yeah.
And the fact that we looked at the why and the how. Those two are very closely related when you're looking backwards. Because you look for the why did this happen, and then then maybe you find out why, but then you want to know, how does that work? Then why does that work? It works because of this. Okay, how does that work? So why and how kind of get you back to the point where you have those testable models.
They dovetail together. Exactly right.
Yeah, and that was the thing, and that's what Bill Nye was trying to prove, is that, look, we know, based on the why and how, we know the mechanic of this process.
Yes.
Therefore, we can predict reasonably well what's going to happen in the future based on that past model. And then, sure enough, you go forward a few years, you say, okay, I'm starting my clock at 0 right now. Based on what I know of this phenomenon in the past, I predict that within 5 years, we're going to see this result of this experiment. Within that 5 years, I would say a high percentage of the time, you're right.
Yeah, there's a great model that we can point towards, and it covers physics, geology, technically geometry, meteorology, fluid dynamics. I want to say physics and chemistry, but I've forgotten which one I've already said. So
you already said physics, so let's go with chemistry.
Okay, chemistry. Here in Western New York, and this happens in a lot of other areas, but because I'm in the Western New York area, this is something that we deal with yearly in the winter. Lake effect snowfall. It's a fairly unique set of conditions that happens in and around the Great Lakes between Canada and the United States. We know for well that water holds energy very well. It doesn't like to be heated up, but once it's got it, it's holding on to it really well. Boil water. The expression a washed pot does not boil. That's because it just takes a long time. It doesn't like to be heated up, but once it does, it holds it a long time. You just need to use a good thermos to find out how long that water will hold that heat. A long freaking time. Same thing with the Great Lakes. They hold the heat a long time after they've been heated up from the spring, the summer. You get into the fall, they're still getting a little bit of heat, not so much, and then the winter comes. And the Arctic cold air starts coming through from the poles. I'm not saying Canada, point there, but you remember a couple of years ago, we had that, whatever the hell they called it, the Arctic blast that came through. Vicious, bitter cold. Jet stream brought it down across the Great Lakes. And here's where it all came together. High speed, cold, dry wind pulled the water vapor coming off of the warm, wide surface area of these bodies of water and lifted the water vapor up to where it condensed in areas quickly and then just dropped it in swaths 10 miles wide and in some cases no more, and dropped absolute mountains of snow. You might remember just after the turn of the year, the 2002, I think it might have been 02. I've forgotten exactly when it was, where we got here in Buffalo, we got 7 feet in one weekend. 2 meters of snow in a 48-hour time frame. That, I don't care where you are, that's a lot of snow in a very short amount of time. But we know why that happens. We can predict when it happens. We can show where it's going to have happen. And even more so, we can actually say, if you've got a commercial business in this area, if you haven't had your roof tested recently to account for 50 extra pounds of snow on top of it, you're probably going to have a bad day.
You know, Shujin, I thought I'd take a little look and see if I could get you a proper date on that. I know this happened before this. Most of what I'm seeing right now is dealing with from 2014.
That was the snowpocalypse. That was the one where it was bad, and that was when I popped my back. But there was one 10 years before that. I was still living properly in Buffalo. But it was vicious, but more so, you know what? Even though if memory serves,
October
Geraldo
2006.
that might have been the one. Geraldo Rivera was in the neighborhood, and he got stuck in it all, and he was all kinds of pissed. By the way, my English teacher went to the same high school with him. He knew Geraldo Rivera back when he was known as Jerry.
I was waiting for that.
So he is. So yeah, but we know why that works. We know how that works. We know the mechanism. We know the mechanics. We know the heat index of water, how much it will take in, how much it will give off, how much water vapor, the surface area, how we know all of these pieces. That's the beauty of the why, because we keep asking, why does the surface area matter? Here's why. Why does the speed of the air matter? Here's why. Why does relative humidity matter? Here's why. Why do different levels of the atmosphere matter? Why does air pressure matter? Over and over and over and over and over, and you build a collection of information that actually tells you why something is.
Why do birds sing? Good album, by the way.
Why do birds fall from up in the what? Why did it fall? I forget who it was that did it. I don't even remember.
Violent Femmes.
It's a different song that I'm thinking of. Absolutely a different song. I can tell you for certain because I've got like 1950s in my head. Why do we fall in love? I don't. You know what?
Why do fools fall in love?
That yeah. I don't know. There's a medical thing for that. I'm not going to ask because she's got her mute on, so too big for us. It's fine. Fine to see how it is. She's not even laughing. You know what? Fine. Screw you too, man.
She might be laughing. We just can't tell.
That's that there is that. So here's what do we really need to know? We need to know why.
Why not?
Well, you know what? That's not a bad question back. When we deal with people who have got a position, I was going to say opinion, but no, a position on something, and we ask why. Wait a minute, Dallin. Who was it that had that book for making atheists?
Oh, Dr. Peter Boghossian.
Okay. When Blastoise wrote that book, he was trying to make sure that he explained you want people to go down the psychological rabbit hole of their own to try to understand their own position in order to explain it to someone else.
Yeah, the Socratic method.
Now, the Socratic method is good for trying to unravel somebody's position on something. And now that Bridget has finally brought herself back to join us, hi, nice to see you again.
Hi, sorry, I was eating crackers and Sprite.
Okay, okay. Are you okay? Seriously?
Yeah, my stomach just feels really queasy.
Okay. If you need to pop out early, you know full well, I will tell you go right ahead. Don't worry about it. But before you do though, when we challenge people on their positions and we ask them to explain themselves, when we ask them the why for their position, and they have to try to unravel it in their own head, we end up a lot of times with people lashing back out at us like they've been attacked personally. This fight or flight response for something that is just questions, this is something that's not typically normal, especially when we start getting the huge amounts of vitriol. where do you have any idea? I know, again, I know full well that psychology is not exactly the area of expertise, but from your own experience, why do people, why would they end up attacking over questions of, could you explain yourself, even when you're not being, argumentative?
Because they feel that they are being attacked when you question them.
Yeah, but that's
Dark
the thing.
Matter actually, Dark Matter 2525 actually explained that in his one of his videos. If I find it, I'll put it in the comment section so we can link to it.
Yes, please.
Credit where credit's due. But the what I pulled away from the video, what I understood it to be is that if you were to line up everybody who says that they're a Christian, right? Take everybody who's evangelical, right? And you ask them to write down on paper every single ideal that they pull from their God, okay, of how to live their lives and how to treat others, right? You'd see a lot of similarities, but you're not looking for the similarities. You're looking for all the little minor differences. And when you look at all those minor differences, what you're actually seeing is you're actually seeing the person themselves projecting onto their concept of what their God is. Okay, so when you question their God, you're not questioning their God. You're questioning themselves, they as a person who are projecting themselves onto this statement, this proclamation of this religion. So if I say, okay, I'm a born-again Christian, I'm new to the faith and everything else, I feel this God in my heart, and I know this God loves me and everything that I do, and I've made mistakes, but I know I'm forgiven because, well, you want to be. A lot of people want to be forgiven for the mistakes that they've had. Not everybody, granted. Some people actually just want to learn from them and move on, like me. But they have, this God is my God. This God says the same thing I do. This God obviously doesn't like this particular group over here because this other group over here is not like me. They don't have the same values as my God. And what they should really be saying is, this group of people over here I don't like because they're not like me. They don't have my values. They don't see things my way. Therefore, I don't like them. But they say it as God instead of themselves. So when you go out and you question somebody who yells at No Illusions for being a filthy masturbator, okay, and it pisses them off more.
They're right.
Right. They happen to hit or miss on that one, but when you go out and you question them about it, they take it as a personal attack because really you are questioning who they are and why they have that position of their thought. And they don't see it that way. You're hitting an emotional, this really primal aspect of their being, but they don't see it.
But even beyond religion, for instance, if you have a particular view on something, and this is one thing I've noticed a lot as I've become more involved with skeptics like yourselves here. I mean, yeah, we do tend to agree on a lot of things, but
yeah, I've met skeptics who are pro-life.
No, I get that.
Anti-abortion, I should say.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it can also be frustrating if every time you say something or you not so much assert, but this is what I feel. This is the conclusion I've arrived at based on everything I've looked at. And then someone comes up and tears it down. You say, okay, you step back, you reevaluate, you adjust if necessary. You come back and say, okay, this is, my stance now based on this evidence. Well, then someone comes up and tears it down again. And eventually it gets to a point where you're so frustrated that you start to see it as a personal attack because it's almost an attack on your own vanity. because you're suddenly left with the impression that you can't get anything right. Like
Yep.
you've struck out so many times. It's like, why the hell bother? And eventually, when people, they don't mean to nitpick, but that's the impression. And eventually, it builds and builds until you just start yelling a whole bunch of nonsensical stuff at the person, accusing them of things that you know for a fact they are not, but you're going to say it anyway because you're just tired of constantly being taken to task for absolutely everything. And even though you've done mountains of research, you've gone through, you've looked at encyclopedias, you've looked at credible sources online and other places, and you still can't quite seem to hit the target because someone else comes up with, oh, by the way, and eventually you just want to turn to that guy who says, oh, by the way, and dislocate part of their anatomy. Just saying. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah. And like Tech was saying, credit where credit's due. Yes. I'm pretty sure I remember which video you're talking about. Yeah. We definitely need to have that linked in for that part.
There's also something else that Dallin was making me think of. It may not just be that you're tired of constantly having that question asked of you. That you've had your conclusions torn apart constantly and having to recreate who you are, your mentality or your position. It may also be that you're not brought up in a environment where doing so is treated as a positive outcome of your life. If you're brought up and raised in an environment where questioning things, questioning your stances, questioning your morals, your ethics, and constantly revisiting information when new information becomes readily available, and changing that seat, your mentality there, it can be very disturbing to somebody who has not grown up in that environment. Now, for somebody else who has been, in that environment, they've been raised to ask questions, that they've been raised that it's okay to change your stance, that it's okay to be wrong, as long as you're willing to acknowledge it, and move on. That's going to be two different experiences.
Yeah, but even someone who's been brought up questioning everything.
Oh, granted, everybody has their own breaking point.
Yeah, like I used to say in my intro, one thing my parents always instilled in me was, never stop learning. Always ask questions and don't be afraid to ask those questions. But eventually you do reach a point where at least you think you're fairly steadfast in something, some particular view, perhaps some particular opinion. But then suddenly, today it's a square, tomorrow it might be a circle, the day after a rectangle, a week from now a dodecahedron, in terms of how complex that question becomes, because you're bombarded with so much information. And eventually you ask, what's the right answer? And you get 50,000 different answers saying that theirs is the right one. And even after you've done all the research, number 50,001 will come up and tear it down again.
I think one of the ways.
At what point do you finally just say, you know what? No, I'm done.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, I kind of feel like part of this is like you think that you've got concrete underneath you to stand on, and suddenly you find out that the tide is just washed out sand, and you just sunk straight down into whatever it is that you were standing on. You just didn't even realize it. Again, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. Or, or black ice, as we call it up here.
Yeah.
You think you're on something pretty solid. No, you're not.
Yeah. And Bridget, I know full well that I knew somebody who worked ambulance.
Potato.
Up here. Up here. I'm trying to figure out how to word this, because it's delicate, but at the same time, I don't want to give anybody a bad rap. Okay, I'll put it this way. There are stories of people who have worked high-stress medical situations, ambulance workers, probably the best way of putting it, could be paramedics, could be EMT, doesn't really much matter, who made a mistake and put the wrong, what's the expression? Hung the wrong bag of blood.
Mhm.
And have to deal with they just killed somebody because they incorrectly cross-matched.
Mhm.
That's something that we know now why that happens.
Mhm.
But going back, it was thought that blood was just another fluid. You take it out and okay, you get all better. And then it was also you could exchange blood from one animal to another, like dogs with humans and vice versa. We now know that that doesn't work. That has to be yet another example of, okay, you've got blood, I've got blood. Why don't they work together? That's kind of the point of it all. It's getting the scariest question out of the way. It should work. Why not? But that's God. I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to be asking this because it's okay.
Are you trying to ask why it's not interchangeable?
No. I'm going past that. I got the camera back for me a second. I need to explain something to not just the panel, but for you who are watching and listening for a second. Trying to formulate questions like this, and I will get to it. I just want to kind of put this out there for a second. Formulating these questions is not always easy because, like I was saying before, where why has so many different pieces that you need to prioritize, trying to figure out how to tease out the piece that I'm looking for. Sometimes I don't know how to word the piece that I'm looking for. You try to write a paper for a class that you're doing, and stuff is going through your head quicker than you can type, and that sucks. Right now, I'm kind of in that position because I'm trying to think through and ask it correctly. The why of these two living things have blood. They look to be the same. Why don't they work together? That is something that, when you look at it without extra tools, best way, without extra tools, it would otherwise seem to make sense. You've got blood, I've got blood. You're losing blood because your arms come off. Damn shame. You shouldn't have been listening to George Lucas. Let me give you some of my blood. And that doesn't work. We know now why that does not work. But in order to get to asking why doesn't it work, I guess this is where I was kind of trying to pull you over to. Getting to be able to ask, why doesn't this work, involves a lot of pain, and it involves a lot of cost. You have two different types of blood that don't intermingle correctly.
Mhm.
People die.
Universal donor.
Yeah.
Yes, I do
But-
donate blood, by the way.
But here's the piece.
So I'm not a Jehovah's Witness.
But here's the piece that I wanted to I wanted your what information you might have.
On
When-
why?
Well, the cost that goes into before even asking the why. Like I said, we've I vaguely remember through the history stuff that I've dealt with before, living beings trading blood. Like I said, we collectively, humanity, killed a lot of people before we understood what went into blood typing. The cost before you can even get to asking the question why sometimes is really, really high. There are a lot of things in the medical history that we've had documented where people died a lot before the why was finally asked and investigated. What pieces do you can you remember where that was the thing? Like I said, I remember that humans tried to just plug in one to another to exchange blood, trying to exchange blood between different animals that were not the same species. There were the people in who died of infections before they decided to sterilize equipment and the air in the operating theater, for Christ's sake.
Germ theory really hasn't been around that long, considering.
No, it was what, late 19th century, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But lots of people died from especially that piece. Germ theory, like I said, is
Had lots of
huge.
problems of people, dissecting cadavers and then going and delivering, childbirth and yeah. Ugh.
Well, before the discovery of oxygen, there was a theory. I remember this from, I think it was chemistry class, the phlogiston theory. You're talking about, like, mixing blood types and people die.
Yeah.
One of the experiments was, why does a candle go out in a sealed room?
Mm.
And before they realized what oxygen was, they believed it was a substance called phlogiston. Let's just say that some of the experiments didn't just involve things like candles. Humans were locked in basically the equivalent of a sealed room and ended up suffocating because the scientists didn't understand at the time, like, why do we breathe? What is it in this? What is it that our lungs are doing? Because, of course, air was really not something that was thought of. So they were trying to figure out, okay, is there something that we can't see that the human body needs? And phlogiston was one of the theories. And, well, now, I mean, we know now, but as you said, knowledge can sometimes come at a very terrible price.
It's like World War II.
Mm-hmm.
The Nazis did a whole bunch of very unethical, very inhumane experiments in the name of medical science. And because of that, we do have a lot of advances in our medical science around the world today. So one of those ideas, the mental games that people play about going back in time and killing Hitler is, what would happen? It was like, well, one of the things is if you went back and killed Hitler before Hitler became Hitler, it's quite possible that the medical technology that we have today that have saved millions of lives, from infants to the elderly, would not exist, and many people who exist today would have never lived, or would have died young, or would have died of serious complications, or so on and so forth. It becomes one of those, what do you change when you change the past? What do you give up? What do you gain? Kind of mental playgrounds to play with. And what they did was absolutely horrible. And they hurt and abused and killed so many people in the name of it. But we chose as a species to take that knowledge that had been gained and rather than bury it with the dead, say, no, we will not let your lives be for nothing. We will not let the suffering have gone for naught. We will instead take this knowledge that has been gained, regardless of how it was gained, and we will use it to do good. And medical science has been moving forward with it ever since. And also because of things like that, because of what was learned about what was being done to the prisoners and everything else, we have these international laws and accords for prisoners of war. We have rules when it comes to medical studies and clinical trials and medicines and operations and things like that. So it's a sensitive subject, especially my family's background history.
Yeah, now you understand why I was trying really hard to try to figure out how to couch this.
But what we also have from that, going back to your analogy, Shujin, they learned the why, they learned the how. And from that now, we can build models using our current technology to predict the what moving forward so that a treatment, a drug, a therapy, when it's finally time to start testing, what they call human trials, we have a larger degree of confidence that there won't be adverse side effects, regardless of what you see on the infomercials. The 50-second screed where the guy is talking like no illusion hopped up on caffeine to try to do a disclaimer. Side effects may include, But my point, again, just kind of going off of what Zach said. Based on all of that, we're using it now to do good. But we can also take that and build the predictive model so that we don't have to put so many people at risk anymore.
Yeah, Joey.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joey had also dropped something over in here for us to take a look at, and you're right, that is exactly it. Go ahead and, again, credit where credit is due. It's okay. Joey had put in. It's okay. Joey had put in here that one of the examples was bubonic plague. Didn't know, didn't understand it, and it took some time and hundreds of thousands of, millions of deaths, if memory serves. Yeah. And the only other one that I can think of, and I don't know who still would remember about this one, syphilis.
Mm-hmm.
Which I hate to say it, but if you're in the U.S. or if you're at all interested in the medical history that has happened in the U.S., you don't need to go any much further than learning how we learned what we did about syphilis from a population that did not ask to be part of a human trial and unethical things were done. I think the thing about that is, I'm just going to finish myself and let everybody else have their opportunity. And I will just say, as far as I learned a lot of different pieces of history. And why is not just about mechanics for me. Why is about the human condition. Yeah, it's all well and good to know the statistics of why something happens, but I have to mute myself in a second because I'm going to cough like crazy. There's also the why as to why would somebody do, or in some cases, more importantly, why would somebody prevent, or worse, why would someone allow? Bridget, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Like I said, I gotta mute myself because I gotta cough like crazy. But I'm going to give you an opportunity. Like I said, give you guys an opportunity to close us out instead of me just doing it.
Yeah, I think she's just talking about the Tuskegee Airmen and how they were either allowed to live with syphilis or intentionally given syphilis just to see what would happen,
Jesus.
and weren't given any treatment. And that was, government sanctioned.
Sorry about that. Thanks. Yeah, and anything you want to fill in for yourself to close us out, because like I said, that's I got nothing after that. Unless that's all that you wanted to finish off with.
Yeah. Asking why can definitely bring up some ethical problems, trying to get the why. So you have to be very careful on how you get your why.
Yeah, like I said, now you understand why I was having such a hard time trying to figure out how to couch that question with the blood, because of how it all plays together.
Yeah.
See, that's like I was saying before, guys. That's part of the reason why I try really hard to do the job that I do with this, because some of these questions are really, really, really uncomfortable to go with. Dallin, I don't know, whatever.
I'm a lover of history. I took it at university. I always looked forward to it in high school. And yeah, one thing that a book will never teach you, or that will never explain to you, is the feeling, or the I guess you could say the atmosphere at the time that's being recorded. Today, we look at modern medicine. We know its roots. We know a lot of it is dark. But what we don't fully understand or empathize with today is what conditions were like back then. Sure, we can brush it off and say, yeah, look, it sucked or whatever. But yeah, during those times, it had to have been absolutely horrible. The time of the bubonic plague, absolutely horrible. I guess what I'm going at is, yeah, sometimes why in the moment, us asking why something now that could be explained by introducing risk to members of the human population. And I'm not excusing this. I mean, there's moral and ethical things. I don't believe that using today's moral and ethical models and projecting them on something that happened decades or centuries ago, I don't think we can do that. I don't think we should. For somebody to say today, like, oh, this back then was cruel. Well, yeah, by today's standards it was. But back then, we didn't have technology that we have now. The knowledge we've gained, they always say hindsight is 20/20. I guess what I'm saying is that we consider ourselves more enlightened now than we were even 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, we were asking the question of why. Now today, we have answers to those, but we still have more questions. And those questions should still be pursued in terms of finding an answer. And if along the way someone makes a mistake and something happens, people die, or an explosion, or some kind of biological thing. I mean, we're doing our best with what we have. 50 years from now, someone will look back and say, well, why did they do something so barbaric? That's because in this day, we lack what they have for knowledge from 50 years from now. You shouldn't be afraid. Asking a question is always going to have some kind of risk, especially if you're wanting to test to see the answer. And we shouldn't be afraid of testing that answer, even though it could have bad consequences. But if it gets us further down the road towards that future that humanity is going to experience, I say it's still worth it.
Tech, I don't know what you'd like to add, but feel free.
Okay, so I mentioned that there was one particular video by Dark Matter 2525 that had, made me really understand what was happening when you question somebody's faith, what's actually happening to them. But it was actually a combination of two videos. They'll both wind up in the show notes. But for those of you who aren't watching, who are just listening, and maybe need a verbal cue, one of his episodes is called "Do You Know God?", which is a very good one. But the other one, the one that really hits home with how somebody of faith is affected, really, really affected when you question their faith, is called "The Real God, an Epiphany." And I highly recommend that one.
We'll make sure they're linked in.
For people who haven't seen it, and if whoever's listening or watching, if you are of a faith, I would still recommend go seeing it, because maybe you haven't noticed due to blinders, and when you're, I practiced I was a born again Christian. I was a Jew. I wasn't a very good Jew, but I was a Jew. And I studied other religions, and when you're beset by the religious blinders, you don't see these things, and it kind of takes somebody to point them out to really see them. So maybe you'll be able to see, by watching the video, be able to look back with an analytical mind and go, hey, let me put my emotional reactions aside here, and let me re-examine how I've reacted to these kinds of questions, to these kind of people in the past, and what can I do going forward? And the reason why I bring this up is not just because of religion, but because, for example, here in the States, the current president, who will be sworn in on the 20th, is President-elect Donald Trump. And that scares me. He's a bully. And I've been dealing with bullies all my life. And I have no place in my life for bullies. And I'm a survivor of bullying. I've had many different bullies. And he is basically an embodiment of many of all the different types of bullies I've encountered, which is why he scares me so much. We have many people around me that, when Obama was in office, were demanding to see his birth certificate. When they finally did see his birth certificate, they were saying, oh, well, it's fake, or it's not real, or, the government made it up after the fact, or you get the idea. Or they'd say not very nice things about the fact of his heritage, or the color of his skin, or his politics or policies. Now, granted, I didn't vote for the guy the second time around. There was somebody else I felt was better for the job the second time around. But he won the second time around. Majority rules. These self-same bastards, in my opinion, who had nothing nice to say about Obama or his family, are now demanding of the people of me, who know what a bully is, know what bullies are capable of, and know what bullies are terrified of and how they react to certain things. Ladies, if you ever want to see what a true misogynist looks like, look at your president-elect. Because when a woman questions him, he either ignores her, makes fun of her, sidesteps the question, or any number of responses other than treat her with respect. And that is because he has no respect for women. And yet these self-same bastards demand that I, keep an open mind and be respectful because he's our president and I should respect him on his position alone. These same people who had no respect for Obama, nothing nice to say, were saying hurtful and cruel things. Now they have somebody in office that they can relate to, much like their God, if they're religious. And yeah, like he won, suck it up, and all that kind of thing. It's amazing the turnabout you'll see in somebody's position when things are going in a manner that they feel is best for them, and their attitude. And all you have to do is look at the person who said, rather than go after Obama based on policies and administration and the bills that were set forward, but go after him personally. And then when they hear Donald Trump being attacked, not based on not personally attacked, but his business is attacked or his fallacious statements being proven wrong, and then them defending him. It's the same way with religion. It's the same way possibly with you. It hurts to say that. There was a phase in my life where, somebody said God was a horrible concept, and I would have told them, you had no idea what the hell you're talking about. The why is a powerful question. And the answers it can bring forward can terrify the hell out of somebody, quite literally. The whys and the hows and the wheres and the what fors got me, set my mind free of religion. And a lot of other things too. It can do the same for you, or it can help back you into a corner. It depends on where your answers come from. Have they been vetted, double-blind study, empirical evidence, the whole 9 yards? But at the end of the day, it's what you're willing to accept. If you're not willing to accept that the world is round, the world will never be round to you. And that's just the facts.
Joe, you get to play cleanup, I guess, at this point for anything you'd like to close out with.
This is where we find out his mic's not working.
No, it's working.
It's working. I suppose the biggest piece that I can contribute is don't be afraid of why. A lot of people are afraid. There are some subjects where, that fear is perfectly reasonable. But never be afraid to ask why. And never be afraid to actually seek out the answer. The answer itself can be terrifying. It can be abysmal. But with each question asked, we learn something. So never be afraid of why. Be afraid of how, be afraid of what. Sure, there are plenty of reasons for that to be a consideration, but never be afraid of why. That's it. That's all I got.
That is really, really good.
That's not a bad way to end it at all.
No, it is not. So on that, thank you everyone for being with us. And we hope that you found something worthwhile in all of our perspectives and everything that we've had to say. Especially that, because after 2.5 hours, you know what? I think that is arguably the best piece that we've had for the whole goddamn night. So, as always, thank you very much for being with us. Trippin' Fool was in the chat, so thank you very much for that. You take good care of yourself. So, let me go ahead and really quickly, Tech, thank you for your time. You have yourself a good rest of the morning, and you be safe with whatever weather patterns you're coming away.
I'm not worried about the weather.
Yeah, lucky guy. Joey, thank you very much. You have yourself a good morning, and also take care of yourself, man.
If I don't set myself on fire first.
I would greatly appreciate that. There are many ways of staying warm. That should not be one of them. Unless, of course, you're just looking to stay warm for the rest of your life, in which case we can help facilitate that, you know.
Yes. I know the adage. I use it quite often myself. Teach a man to build a fire, and he'll be warm for the night. Set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life.
Or he'll be Richard Pryor, one of the two.
Or have a musical career. Bridget, thank you, of course, for your time. I'm glad you didn't laugh at that one. That was a terrible joke on my part. You have yourself a good evening, good morning, and, of course, your blogs.
BridgetFitch2112 at WordPress.com.
Thanks for being and sticking it out. I hope you feel a little bit better.
Me too.
Yeah, maybe some ferret therapy. That'll help. Oh, Jesus, I think that I just stepped in something and it's not really... It sounds like you're ready to go. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to tie him up into knots.
What happens when you take a whole bunch of cats and a cat carrier and accelerate them at 100 miles an hour?
You have a very, very pissed off bunch of cats.
Then you get a kitty bond. Autobahn, kitty bond.
Oh.
That's 3.
Even Michael Marshall from would not know. Dallin. Thank you so much for all that you do, and many times over. And you have yourself a good morning.
I plan to face plant not too long after this is done.
Yeah, you and me both tonight. So, your blogs and writings, of course.
Yeah, of course. I am the custodian of holycrapthevlogcast.com, which should be up to date tomorrow if all things go well. Then, of course, I got my blog, thoughts and stuff that I try not to bring onto this show because, well, reasons. That's at inthewind.yo5.ca.
Of course, all that stuff is linked over in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
As always, if you would like to get in touch with us, swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. All the links that you need are over there. If you want to send a voicemail message or even text over to us, feel free. 859-HCTV-554. 859-4288-554. There's a long story about that. Maybe I'll regale you guys one of these days about that. If you need assistance otherwise, especially those of you that are part of the LGBTQI plus community, please go over to the show notes and swing just all the way to the bottom and just be done with it. We are going to continue to have links in the show notes for resources that you can take advantage of if you are in need of help. And over on the website, Dallin has specifically put together a resource section for exactly that, so that you can get some assistance if you need it. And please, on behalf of all of us, even if you feel like you do need it, but you feel like you really shouldn't have to, do it. The worst that can happen is they say, we can't help you. But I know full well there's a couple of them that would actually end up saying, but we can point you in the right direction to get the help you need. That is one of the biggest pieces and arguably the best piece. You know what? Maybe we should see about having Bobby on again. Talk about some of the groups that he's gotten involved with for those kind of help. Maybe we should talk about that sometime.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind filling out that page a little bit more.
Yes.
What about what's her name? Callie as well.
Well, Callie. Well, I still want to get Callie on for a talk about sex some night. Because there's stuff.
Well, when two people really love each other, or are just horny.
Yeah, well, we can talk about a bunch of different pieces, but we will do that a little bit later. Meanwhile, we need to get out of here because I don't know about anybody else.
It's late.
It is late, and I'm fading pretty fast. So we'll be looking forward to having you guys join us again next week. Stuff later. I got to talk to these guys about afterwards. So thank you for being with us, and we will look forward to having you with us again sometime in the near future. As always, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, my lady, it's hard for me to be able to say this, but it's gonna be 12 years. There's a real significance there. In the meantime, of course, as always, Matane Fujin, I love you and I miss you. You dream of me. As always, till the next time we get together, everyone, good night.